I've tried many different tripods, large, small, ones that can wrap around things, but this has been my favorite way to mount a camera because you can get every angle, every position. It's wonderful for clamping to a table, or you can clamp it to limbs out in the woods. You can clamp it about anywhere. And I made this for around $5. I'm going to show you how to make it. We're going to take this apart because what we want out of this is the neck, the flexible part. So let's take it apart. So now we have our flexible piece taken out. You're going to need to get a clamp. This is a metal spring-loaded clamp. Got this for $3. You take the coated grip off like that. You got a couple holes here, but you're going to have to drill this hole out bigger to where this end will go through. And we're going to nut that on. You will take a hacksaw and cut the extra off here. Make sure you tighten the nut real well. So here's what you have so far. We have mounted the flexible arm onto the clamp. Now we're going to need to make the camera mounting plate for the other end, and I'll show you how I do that. We can also go ahead and put the grip back on. We're going to have to cut it, as you can see, or it'll hit the upright. So we'll just kind of eyeball where to cut it, and we'll take a utility knife and trim it up. Make sure you save your hardware because we will need it on the other end here when we put our camera mounting plate on. Find a flat piece of metal about 1 inch wide and about 1/8 of an inch thick, just as long as it's not easy to bend, and you're going to cut off about 2 inches of it. So here's our 2-inch piece. As you can see, it's not perfect, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to dress it up on the grinder. Get the sharp edges off and straighten everything up and take the corners off. Just dress it up real nice. When you're done dressing it up, we're going to end up drilling a hole about right here, large enough to where this end will go through it, because we're going to mount this on to the end of this arm like that. So you can see I've drilled a hole in the camera mounting plate. I've also dressed the edges up on the grinder. This will now fit on the arm real well, and of course we will tighten it down, putting your lock washer on and the nut. But before we do that, there's one other thing we have to do. We need to drill another hole on this side, and that's for the bolt to come up through that we screw the camera on. So what you're wanting to create is a bolt that sticks up about like that. Now I weld, so when I've done this before I just run a little bead, just tack it on there, and that's good enough. But I'm going to show you how to do this for those who don't know how to weld, because I imagine most people don't. So what we're going to do is we're going to drill a hole through here. We're going to take the bolt up through there and just basically take a lock nut and tighten it down. And I'll show you how that's done. Let's go ahead and drill our hole for the bolt. So here's what we have. Our 2-inch flat piece that we drilled a large hole in that the arm will go through, and a 1/4-inch hole that receives a 1/4-inch bolt. This bolt is about 1.5 inches long, and that's what the camera is actually going to screw onto. We're going to send this through the hole like that, and we're going to take a lock nut and we're going to tighten this all the way down. Tighten it really good to where the bolt is sticking straight up and doesn't move. As you can see, I've tightened everything down. That bolt is sticking straight up and it's not moving. It's tight. Now we're going to take a wing nut and we're going to turn the wing nut upside down like that and thread it onto the camera mounting bolt. Just like that. That wing nut's what we're going to use to actually tighten the camera on there after threading the camera on when we use it. Now we're going to take the camera mounting plate and put it on to the end of the arm. We'll take our lock washer and our nut, thread it on, and make it real tight. So here's our end product. As you can see on the end here, where we've put the camera mounting plate, tighten it down really well, and we have our bolt sticking straight up. We will thread the camera in on this bolt and we will tighten it with the wing nut. So here's how it works. You take your camera and you thread it on to the bolt. Don't thread it on tight, just make sure it's on there pretty good. Then you take your wing nut and you run it up to the camera. And you just give it a little bit of a snug tightening against the camera, like that. Now the camera is mounted on to the camera mounting plate.